this episode of The Orange Peel, we are certainly keeping our promise to bring you a variety of Christian perspectives about the world and our faith walk through its challenges. We dubbed this episode a Christianity Health Check, a conversation with Sammie Berry about the health of the Christian faith in America. Sammie Berry is a successful business professional and minister of the gospel, much like the Apostle Paul, who was simultaneously an evangelist and earned a living as a tent maker. Sammie Berry earned a living in corporate America while also teaching and preaching. Sammie is a proud and noteworthy native son of Jackson, Mississippi. He attended Harding University and graduated in 1979. He was a member of the Harding Bison's football team. He is a certified public accountant in the state of Texas. Sammie fulfills several vital roles in the church and is active in the Dallas community. He serves on several boards and commissions as follows: chairman of the Dallas Area Preachers and Church Leaders Group, co-chair of the City of Dallas Anti-Hate Advisory Council, member of the Botham Jean Foundation Board of Directors, member of the President's Council of Harding University, president of the United Christian Basketball League, board member of the Christian Chronicle newspaper. Sammie also works with March, a group of Dallas area ministers that are committed to ministry for awareness, relationship change, and healing. Sammie has faithfully labored with the Dallas West Church of Christ in various roles for over 45 years, the last 24 years as senior minister. He was ordained as one of the elders at the Dallas congregation in 2003. He and his lovely wife of 45 years, Renee, make their home in Duncanville, Texas. They have two beautiful daughters, Jessica and Jennifer. Sammie Berry is known for his integrity and wisdom, a person who really has valuable insights worth hearing. So lean in and be refreshed by the juicy truths uncovered in this discussion.
Apple pie is all about.
Sammie, it's so good to see you. And you are an important guest to me because you fulfill something that we always promise on the Orange Peel. We always say that we bring guests that help us peel back the covers on juicy hidden truths. So
okay.
you certainly fit that bill as a real clear thinker in the kingdom. And so I think that from your vantage point, you should have some very interesting things for our listeners to talk about. But before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you.
Okay.
I think I heard you played football. Is that right?
Yes, I did. And first of all, I just want to say, Avery, thank you for allowing me to come on this broadcast this today. I appreciate the opportunity to do this. But yes, I did play football. I actually got started out in junior high, played in high school, played at junior college, and then I finished my career at Harding University. When I was in high school, I played both ways. I played offense and defense because we just didn't have that many players on the team, not a lot of talent. So I had to go both ways. When I went to college, that's, you have to be extremely gifted to play both in college. And my gifts didn't extend to both ways in college. So when I got into college, I played in the defensive line. I was always a defensive lineman playing football.
Yeah, you're pretty big guy, so I figured you for a linebacker, but you were actually in the trenches.
Yeah, I was actually, a lot of schools recruited me as a linebacker, but I have a linebacker body, but not linebacker skills. So I was much better down on all fours than I was standing up, trying to read offenses from a linebacker's point of view.
Well, you spoke of Harding University. I have an affection for that school because I think it stands as one of our best Christian institutions. And I believe you're still quite involved at the school as an alumni. Is that correct?
Yes, of course. I graduated Harding in 1979, and I started out actually very early with my daughters, and I this was really kind of unintentional, but I was talking to them at 3 and 4 years old about attending school at Harding University, and I didn't realize the, impressing that on their brains at such an early age had such an impact. But yeah, so my daughters attended school there. That's where I met my wife of 45 years. We celebrated 45 years of marriage in July of this past year, and I serve on the president's council of Harding, and that position primarily there's a couple of meetings a year that you go to and just promote the school. And if you see anything, and from time to time I will, reach out to them when I get publications. I have conversations. I will share, my views on things from an African American perspective. And then I'm also on the advisory board of the Equipped program. And if you're not familiar with Equipped is Harding's version of a school of preaching. You may be familiar with, there are many churches around the brotherhood that train preachers to preach. Well, Harding has a program like that, and they call it a program for non-traditional students, where you can do most of the work online, and you do have to spend some time on campus. But when you finish, you're going to have all the tools as would someone who went through a preaching program there on the campus, starting as a freshman and going through. And then they also have a continuing education arm of Equip, so that preachers like me and elders like you can log in and take a course for a certificate, just to stay up to date on current thinking in the brotherhood.
That's really great, and I think that's so important, because too often I think in the past leaders have not been prepared properly to lead, and having a place to continue that education, I think is a wonderful thing that they're doing there.
Yep, absolutely.
So tell me about your experience with Botham. And now let me just back up and say, as minister of the Dallas West Church of Christ, you were drawn into the national spotlight.
Yes.
When that tragedy took place. And in your own words, tell me what that was like. What did you learn from it?
Okay, good question. Thank you for asking that. Botham John was a graduate of Harding University, 2016, and he, like myself, while he was there at Harding, he studied finance and accounting. So, and when he graduated, he went to work at PricewaterhouseCoopers, the same firm that I went to work for when I graduated. So that was kind of a natural affinity, if you will, that we had. The school, the job, the profession. So I met Botham in 2016. Well, actually, no, I'm sorry. I met him actually in 2013, 14, when the Good News Singers came to Dallas West during one of our homecomings. Actually, they attended 2 homecomings, and they would come down to sing. And what I was trying to do, bringing the Good News Singers into a homecoming type environment, was to bring more diversity into that event. And they did an outstanding job. And Botham was one of the singers. And so when he graduated, that was 2012, 2013. When he graduated in 2016, he remembered his experience at Dallas West and came and placed membership, and he became one of our most requested song leaders. Every Sunday, somebody had a song that they wanted Botham to lead. But So tragically, he was murdered in on September 6th of 2018. And that was something that, I have to say, sitting here 6 years later that I wasn't prepared for. Now, the reason I say that goes back to my experiences growing up. Because one, when you're at school going through the work of the preacher class, they don't have a segment on, when one of your members is murdered, and then brings on national attention in a social media world, how you respond to that. And so I had weaknesses, if you please, in all of those areas. But growing up, I grew up in Jackson, Mississippi, in the shadows of Jackson State University. My father worked on the campus. Many people in our neighborhood worked on the campus. I was always on the campus. At the age of 13, there was a young man who there was protests going on the campus due to the murder of Dr. Martin Luther King at that time, late 1968, around in there. And so there was a young man who was 17. I was 13 at the time. We lived very close to the campus. He was walking home, not involved in the protest. He was shot and killed by a state trooper. And so that trauma put on my mind that protest and civil unrest was something that you don't get involved in. And so from that point up until the time that both of them was shot and killed, when I was actually pulled, if you please, or pushed, depending upon your perspective, into that situation, I was aware of, protests and civil issues, but just never really got deeply involved in it. And I later read a book by Henry J.M. Nguyen. He's actually a Catholic bishop, Catholic priest. Unray, some people might pronounce it Unray Nguyen. But he wrote a book, Reaching Out, and it seemed to summarize for me my experience in terms of where I was when it happened. Nguyen said in his book, some people are searching for answers. Others are listening for questions. And so when that event happened, I was 13. I was on that path of searching for answers, wasn't in a place that I could listen for questions. Well, when both of them were shot and killed, all of a sudden, I feel strange even saying this, because the impact, there was a huge impact on me, but on his family was much greater than mine. But, well, I'll just say it this way. Our world was turned upside down. I began to learn that there were expectations of me as his minister to do certain things publicly, to lead certain protests and things of that nature that I clearly was not prepared for. And so I went into it, doing the best I could, but it was a growth process for me. So, and I never want to have to go through it again. But in the unlikely event that I do, I'd be much more prepared for that. But it was a time of frustration. It was a time of growth. But my greatest concern during that whole ordeal, and it still is today, is his family. Both of them, he lived his life, and the unique thing about him, oftentimes the victim, in police killings, victim is villainized. Well, there was no avenue in both of them's life, even though no one's perfect, but they couldn't make him the villain. So I turned my attention to his family to help them through this process, because they gave the city of Dallas, the United States, so much. I mean, you give Dallas your son. And that was, it's really ironic that both of them structured his life and lived his life in such a way that in his mind, he did things so that what happened to him would never happen to him, that he would never have any type of situation like that. He made sure that all of his registrations were up to date, things like that, the clothes that he wore. I mean, he did all these things just to make sure. And of course, fate said something different. But yeah, it was a time of growth for me. But it was also allowed me an opportunity to minister to his family, who is still, 6 years later, they're still hurting greatly by all the things that happened there.
I'm sure. So it thrust you into the public eye, into more discourse on the civil order.
Yes.
Did it and somehow inform you on where you should take your congregation, your church, in terms of getting involved in the community? And let me say that I am aware that your congregation is very involved in the community. I know you have food drives.
Yep.
You help people
Yep.
with taxes. You have
Yep.
substance abuse
Mhm.
services. And one of the most interesting ones is reentry of prisoners into society, which I think is a beautiful thought. So I
Yes.
wanted to make sure that listeners knew that
Yes.
you are in a big way. But I wonder if the Botham experience helped either solidify that or promote more.
It actually helped promote more because I had members in the congregation who were very community aware, and I knew that. And anytime someone needed something in the community, I said, well, these are the community players that you need to talk to. But it was never out front. I was never out front in those efforts. And when Botham was murdered, I came to realize that I can no longer, take the back seat on, community type activities. In fact, some of the community activists in my congregation had been saying to me, Brother Berry, because I took over as minister at Dallas West in the year 2000. Both of them was killed in 2018. But they had always said to me that, hey, you really need to get out there into the community, go to the meetings, and just let people know where you stand. Dallas West is a lighthouse in this community, long time congregation, having an impact. And I think what happened to both of them, along with those conversations that I had been having, really helped me grow to a place that I realized that, hey, all the other things that you hear about was happening to someone else, but now, it's right here in our congregation. And in fact, thinking back on it, that was not the first police murder that happened in our congregation. And it's kind of strange how over time, timing of things is so critically important. But actually, in 2011, remember Trayvon Martin was murdered in 2012. Well, in December of 2011, the grandson of one of our community activists was shot and killed by a Dallas police officer. Never made any, but it didn't make the news publicly because this young man's lifestyle was quite different than both of them, and so things worked out a little different. Although it was just as tragic for the family, they still feel the pain to this day, even though it happened in 2011. So most definitely, and because of that, I realized, even though there may be some in the brotherhood that would say, hey, that's not our place, to get involved in and politics and other things like that. And then, the other thing that happened is we had a young lady in our congregation in 22 who decided to run for the District 30 of U.S. Congress. She was not successful, but I saw that as another opportunity to get very heavily involved in her campaign and go out and canvass and knock on doors and things of that nature. So, the death of both of them was most definitely a turning point, if you will, in my ministry, because then even in 2020, when COVID happened, there was a sister in the congregation who had a food pantry she has a community center, and she was doing a pantry there. And so she had to shut her pantry down because of repairs needed in her building. And so the elders said, well, hey, bring your pantry to our fellowship hall. We're not during the day, these days during the week that you do pantry, we're not doing anything. So the people, as opposed to going to your community center, they can come to the church building. So that gives us an opportunity to minister to them in that way. And then when COVID happened, we had to shut her ministry down, the food pantry down, because of COVID. But what we did is we converted it into a drive-through type of model, and we still operate that drive-through model today, working with North Texas Food Bank. In fact, a few days ago, for the Thanksgiving holiday, we were able to pass out in excess of 500 turkeys and 500 meal boxes, if you please, to over 500 families that drove through our parking lot for just before the Thanksgiving holiday.
Wow, that's wonderful. And I don't think people realize that in this great country of ours, hunger is still a serious problem. I was talking to a friend just recently and described a situation I never thought of. It said that a lot of children, the last meal they get in the week is from the school on Friday.
Yep.
And they have to forage Saturday and Sunday to eat. And
Yes.
then they eat again when they go to school. And so I think aware Christians should care and get involved as much as we can in rescuing people from these types of problems.
Yeah, there are a lot of issues in terms of that, and certain communities are considered to be food deserts. They
Yes.
don't have a supermarket. And then the other issue is one that you pointed out. There are a lot of young people that are hungry, and they eat at school, but we interact with them because many of them participate with us in our bus ministry program that we operate. We pick them up, and one of the first things that we do when we bring them in, and of course, is we'll give them some type of meal. Actually, we feed them when they come in, and then one of the things that I didn't even really realize that the teachers were doing this, but they give them a bag of something to take home with them every Sunday. So it helps meet that need, and it is a huge issue in marginalized communities.
You remind me of, I'm changed gears here a little bit. You remind me of my uncle in that you are kind of a Renaissance person. You were involved in a lot of things. My uncle was the minister at Simpson Street Church of Christ in Atlanta.
Oh, yeah. I know Brother Harrison, Brother AJ.
Andrew Harrison, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, he was in the military. He was a lawyer, a judge, and a preacher.
Yes.
You are the quintessential business person, and you involved in technology, and you have ex-football credentials. So you, but tell me, what did you learn from corporate America that helps you in the church?
Well, I'll address that, but I must say something about your uncle, or Unc, as I will call him. But you know what I love about Brother AJ? He wasn't afraid to think outside the box. And we need more of that. And thinking outside the box is and many people think of thinking outside the box is thinking outside the Bible. But I did not say he thought outside the Bible. He
Right.
thought outside the box. And in that way, he was brilliant. Now, so let me go ahead and answer the question you asked about. I think what corporate America taught me, and what I learned is that it helped me realize that many things that people thought of as impossible, all of a sudden, if you approached it in the right way, became possible. If you had a vision with a plan, you could achieve it. And that, without, getting really, really, really deep into it, but that's essentially what I came away with, is with the right leadership, with the right vision, and with the right execution, there is not many things that you cannot accomplish. That's what I learned in corporate.
I mean, that is a beautiful statement, because one of my pet peeves about us in the Christian community is sometimes we use faith to excuse lack of planning.
Yeah.
We say, well, you're stepping out on faith, but actually you're stepping out taking unnecessary risk.
Yes. Yeah. I remember writing an article about that, because I haven't published it. I'm still working on it, but because I have to be very careful with it, because it's about my college roommate, who, and I call it the risk of faith, because he never had a plan for anything. He did everything on faith, and so from that point of view, he had a whole lot more faith than I do, because I have to have a plan.
Yeah. Well, they say failure to plan is a plan to fail.
That's right. Yep.
I live by that.
Yep, for sure. No, that's brilliant. Brilliant.
What made you, as a corporate guy, what made you want to be a minister?
Well, actually, I just referenced my roommate. Well, when I was in college at Harding, he was a preaching student, and I was a business student. He was always broke. I always had money. That was the reason I stayed on the business side and didn't go on the preaching side, because one thing I don't like is being broke. But then he was able to impress on me the importance of evangelism and outreach. That was one thing that I loved about him. He never met a stranger. If he talked to you for 5 minutes, in some way he was going to introduce Jesus Christ into that conversation. Well, that had an impact on me. And of course, when I moved to Dallas to go to work at Price Waterhouse in 1979, Brother Reginald Doolin asked me to lead the evangelism efforts of the church. And then he asked me, he says, well, do you preach? Well, I should have said no, but because, just having that ambition to be out front, I said, yeah, I preach. But I wasn't really prepared for it. And so he gave me many opportunities to, get in the pulpit. But my main ministry was evangelism, reaching out to people, talking to them about what's going on in their lives, and leading them to Jesus Christ and baptizing them into the body. And of course, and so I did that for 21 years, and actually was very happy doing that, because I was helping people, and that's, if you ask me what my job is, what my responsibility is, that's the way I like to think of it, is I help people, where they are with whatever that need is, emotional, spiritual, financial, whatever. And so, but when Brother Doolin decided to leave the congregation and go to another part of town and plant a church, the members asked me, since I was always filling in for him when he wasn't there, it was kind of a natural thing as opposed to bringing in the devil you don't know. You go with the devil you do know. And so they asked me to take on that responsibility, and I did it. And again, I think it was another one of those things that was providential, because at the time, Dallas West did not have elders, and so I made that one of my priorities. Is okay, using the Titus 1 model for this cause. I left thee in Crete to ordain elders and set things in order and ordain elders. And so I took that approach, and I think it's really one of the things that has helped that congregation sustain itself over the years by putting a leadership structure in place. Now, not everybody agreed with that. So that was a growing pain for me as well, because, what I was always used to is, hey, Brother Berry is good, but now all of a sudden you face opposition, which you've never faced before. So I had to rely on some mentors to help me through that process. But that's how I got into ministry. As I say, I didn't necessarily sign up for it, but and I want to quote one of my good friends, Brother Carl Sherman. What he always says, he says, when God tells me to do something, I do it. So God said, it's time for you to start preaching and leading out in the congregation. So I had to step up and do it.
That's glad you did, because you have a wonderful reputation of integrity, and we need. You said we need more men like Andrew Harrison. We also need more men like you. So
yep.
we give you your roses now while you.
Well, thank you.
And so I try to always dub a conversation to remind me of what we're going to accomplish, and I don't think I mentioned that when we got started, but I dubbed our conversation a Christianity health check. So, are you ready to dig into a health check and see if we can fix some stuff?
Yeah, I am. But as we get into that, I want to just say, hey, I'll speak to that as a longtime minister of the gospel. But I don't want anyone to take the things that I will say to interpret that to mean that, hey, I'm speaking for the Dallas Brotherhood or the Brotherhood in general. This is just going to be, Sammie Berry's thoughts on Avery's questions.
And I will sign up for that, and also say this is Avery Cloud's thoughts as well. And you're right. We just two gentlemen who have observed a lot in life, and we want to share our insights and maybe give some people some ideas that may help them in their walk. So let's start off talking about, why is culture becoming more and more anti-Christian?
Apple pie is all about.